Hilary, do you find yourself sort of bound by the facts, or are you free to use your imagination, to set your imagination free, as it were?
What I feel is, when I began to write historical fiction at first, when I was writing about the French Revolution, when I started off, I wrote fiction like a lawyer. I couldn't put it on the page unless I thought it was beyond reasonable doubt. Right. And then I sort of edged over to...
Then you wanted to sell some books.
Balance probability, you know. And then I started thinking, well, we'll admit a bit of hearsay evidence, you know. And what I do have, I hope, is a scrupulous respect for the sources. I only make things up when I have to, because I think truth is free. But what you are trying to give, when you're writing fiction, you're trying to give a portrait of the private life, which is like the dark side of the moon. And you know that, having gathered the best evidence you can and examined the sources as critically as you have it in you to do, in the last resort, you're going to have to make something up, a conversation. We know most of the time what people did, but why they did it and what they thought about what they did. To a historian, and to me, that's the dark side of the moon. I think just the thing with the novelist is that you can keep on asking questions when a historian and even a biographer has to draw back and say, now we are in the realms of speculation. Yeah. Your reader knows what you're doing. They know it's not some kind of confidence trick. It's true in the way a painting is true. You have put an artist's filter between the sources and what you've produced on the page. And I think as long as the reader understands that, then you need not have too many misgivings about the trade. Though I do.
David, the way you write, of course, is so lively and entertaining. I mean, I imagine you are influenced by fiction. Is it a genre that you have drawn onto in the way that you write your books?
Heavily. I mean, when I was a sixth former, I should have done Latin, and I rebelled. And I did English, quite deliberately. I no longer read fiction, but there were sort of 2 decades of my life when I soaked myself. I was profoundly influenced too by writers like Orwell in both his expository prose and indeed his fiction. I mean, the cultivation of the short sentence, of the intense movement between paragraphs. I've done a lot of journalism. I was influenced by that too. Yeah. Again, television script writing. I find that the reductive exercise that you've got to go through to produce a piece to camera. I mean, way back when I first started doing this, I did my piece on the Reformation, and it must have been, I don't know, 250 words or whatever. I memorized them. I looked meaningful at the significant moments. I did one of these amazing sort of banana walks that you have to do. Walked off camera on the right side, turned to the director like a dog expecting to be patted on the head. There was this look of sublime boredom on his face. He said, "Do you realise that was almost a minute on the Reformation?" And then I was sent away like a badly behaved schoolboy to reduce it to 125 words on the Reformation. Now, if you can do that, writing, a 120,000 word book seems like an infinite luxury. But what I'm trying to do, and I'm very pleased you raised this issue, I do not believe that anything is so complex that it cannot be expressed clearly, providing the writer themselves understands it. One of the reasons that so much academic writing is so complex is honestly because the academics either don't understand it or don't want anybody else to do so. It's coterie writing. I take a pride that very complex questions can be explained, not simplistically, but simply. It's not dumbing down. It's completely the opposite. And again, I think it's also an act of confidence in your reader. That you trust them and they must trust you. And again, I try and make the books very conversational. So as of course, that there must be with a novel. When you read the novel, one of the things I think you're doing, you are in a kind of conversation with the novelist.